Drafting season is now upon us. On this episode, we'll recap the mixed LABR auction and talk about the TGFBI kickoff with its creator, Justin Mason. Stay tuned. Beat the Shift is next. And welcome to another episode of the Beat the Shift podcast. I am your host, Ariel Cohen, and with me as always is Ruvain Guy. What's going on, Ruvain?
I'm doing great today. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. So much going on. We just did the mixed LABR auction last night. Ruvain was online making bids with me, and TGFBI is getting started. First day underway right now.
Yep, and it's one of the things we look forward to at the beginning of every spring training.
Yes, and what do you know? Guess who we have on here? It's Mr. TGFBI himself. Welcome to the podcast. It's Justin Mason. What's going on, Justin?
Hey, it's always a pleasure to talk to you guys. Congratulations, award-winning podcast that you guys have here. I'm so proud of you guys.
Thank you very much. Amazing. We couldn't believe it, but I'm just still feeling good on the win. Right, Ruvain?
Yeah, and we have to thank you, Justin, for helping us get started in the very beginning also.
Yes, that's right. If you guys remember, this started as the Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational podcast, Beat the Shift edition. You remember that, Justin?
Yep, I was so excited to have you guys come on and do the pod there, and you guys have just gone on to do better and better things. So it's an amazing part of the industry that people get to help each other out and people get to succeed because of that. And so I'm so happy that you guys have really just become just such a dynamic podcast and obviously the best podcast of 2024.
Well, thank you so much, Justin. So obviously, you gave us our start and so much credit. I mean, I remember the first episode that I couldn't even get my audio to work, and you just covered and you hosted it, and you do so much for the industry, so much for anyone, and you don't ask for anything in return. And I think that is part of the genesis of TGFBI. And maybe you could just tell the audience what is TGFBI, how you got it started, and what it means today.
So TGFBI was originally kind of a brainchild of mine because I was very new in the industry, and I just didn't think there was ever going to be room for me in a Tout Wars or a LABR. There's only so many spots, and back then I think there was only maybe 3 leagues, and people don't leave those leagues, right? Like if you're in Tout Wars or you're in LABR, you're not ever going to leave those leagues unless you leave the industry. And so I was like, I'm never getting in, but I thought I was a pretty good player. And I played in a couple like smaller industry leagues, and I was like, what if I kind of came up with something that allowed myself and then people like me to kind of get a shot to play against some of the industry best. And that's kind of how TGFBI was born. And at first I was like, if I could just get 45 people to play, in 3 15-team leagues, that would be amazing. And I think I got 150 people in the first year, which blew my mind. And now we're, at this year's 390, but we've been over 400 in the past. So it's just been a real testament to the industry as a whole, kind of embracing TGFBI. And even though I got into Tout Wars and LABR later on, like I just felt like, hey, this is a really good opportunity for people who might not get that profile to kind of show how good they are at this game.
Yeah, totally. And actually, we are in the same LABR league now, so
Yep.
we have made it to that. But no, it's fantastic. I was so excited when I started playing in it, and I didn't know when I started this, I didn't know anybody in the industry, and it really gave an opportunity to do that. And you put me in a league randomly with Clay Link and with Chris Towers, and I got to know them. And again, that's another thing that you do to just get people involved, to maybe some lesser known people to. In the industry to get involved and just play with other people, and you're creating a community. So I love it, Justin.
And that is one of the things that I love about TGFBI is it really has become a community. And I feel like one of the big differences between the fantasy baseball and like the fantasy football industry is like football can be very cutthroat. There are a lot of people, and people become pretty stringent on who they'll help and who they won't. Whereas in baseball, like I'm only here because there were people who came before me who helped me, like Laura Michaels and Paul Sporer, Saris. Like those guys really took me under their wing and kind of helped craft, what I do in the industry. And so, like, I feel like it's part of, especially like Laura's legacy, like to kind of do that for other people and kind of help people get their start. And so, it's just a fantastic way to kind of do that through TGFBI.
And I knew I was like a nobody joining the TGFBI a couple many years, 6 years ago. And in 2019, I actually finished in second behind Todd Zola. I'm like, how am I in the same league as Todd Zola? This is like even crazy.
There you go. Exactly. Hey, so just a quick check. Where are you in your specific draft, Justin? I'm in the third round in mine, 3 picks. So far, I kind of like my team. I picked Juan Soto. I have the 7th pick. I picked Juan Soto. I got Trey Turner, and then Garrett Crochet fell to me. I'm like, all right, let's go with the top starting pitcher. How about you?
Yeah, so we just finished the third round. I'm in the 2 spot. I took Otani in the first round, and then ended up with Machado and Gilbert in rounds 2 and 3. So I'm feeling pretty good about my team as well. It's been a strange draft, though, I'll tell you. Paul Skeens made it all the way to the middle of the second round. Eric Halterman got just an absolute steal,
Wow.
starting off with Juan Soto at pick 8, and then halfway through the second round getting Paul Skeens. So it's definitely a league in which hitting has been prioritized, and I think the pitching is going to start flying off the board here pretty soon.
How about you, Ruvain?
Yeah, the league I'm in, it's a little bit different. The closers, I think almost all 5 of the main top closers have gone already. I'm in the middle of my third round. I picked in the 7th spot, also like Ariel. I have Juan Soto, and I got Zach Wheeler fell to me in the second round, and Austin Riley fell to me in the third round. I'm like, how could these guys fall to me? I'm like, and people are making comments in the chat like, how did you get this guy? Nice pick. I said, I didn't do anything. I'm just sitting here waiting for the steals to come to me. But it's weird that I didn't think so many pitchers would go this early, and I think pitching is being pushed up a lot right now.
Yep, and it's nice to see the ADP that comes out of TGFBI leagues because this is really a league of experts. So if you think that the average NFBC guy is slightly different than the average TGFBI player, it creates actually a meaningful set of ADP. So we'll have to see how that comes in. But we do want to talk a lot about what happened last night in the mixed labor auction that Justin was a part of, and Ruvain again was making bids with me along on the side as we usually do. And just talk about, what your plan is going in, what your strategy was, and how it came out, and what you thought of the room. I know that we definitely made some mistakes here. Some things went right, some things went wrong. So figure we get into it. So let's just start with you, Justin. And what is your strategy? And actually, before that, just to tell people, LABR is a 12-team mixed 5x5 standard categories, 2 catchers, 5 outfielders. So traditional type roto, but 12-team. LABR is it's the league of the people, whereas Tout Wars is more of let's look at what can be the future or let's test stuff. But LABR is pretty much giving, this is what a regular 12-team would look like, and you can get your auction value. So what is your strategy going in general?
So in general, I don't have a set strategy when I enter an auction. I mean, I'm really just trying to extract as much value from the auction as possible, and then build a cohesive team to the best of my ability while doing that. So that changes auction to auction. And I think one of the things that is really different about an auction versus a draft is just how differently you can build each time. So when you're building a snake draft team, or if you're in a bunch of snake drafts, like I'm always in a bunch of snake drafts, your teams are going to look somewhat similar most of the time. Like you're going to have a lot of the same players and overlap. Whereas for me in an auction, my team will look completely different every time because it's really based upon what the values that the draft or the other players are giving me. Typically in these kind of industry drafts, I end up playing the middle a lot because people tend to overspend, especially early. And I definitely feel like that happened here. I was the last person to get a player. And so, yeah, I ended up playing the middle quite a bit. And I don't know if I played it maybe too much, and I should have reached a little bit more on some upper tier talent, but I like my team overall.
All right, Ruvain, what's your general strategy coming into these auctions? And maybe you can tell what we sort of planned for.
Well, our strategy again, get as much value out of the auction as possible, and give what the auction actually take what the auction gives us. And we had going in, we were thinking that we wanted to get a couple big boppers, we want to get a couple players in the high 20s, low 30s in that range money wise, and we also wanted to get we wanted to play the middle just like you, Justin. We wanted to play the middle. We played against you in the past in auctions, and we've both been playing the same area over and over again. So we're trying to find certain pockets, and what we were looking into is that the way auctions have been going recently, we did not think we were going to get the middle. So we actually were thinking maybe to spend more of our money in catching. We were thinking about maybe going after the top catchers, but that plan did not really work out, right, Ariel?
Yeah, I mean, you have to see what goes on in an auction, and you have to be able to change the fly. But we thought we'd try to do a little bit more stars and scrubsy than we usually do. Again, it's a 12 team, not a 15 team. And 15 team, it's pretty much play the middle. But I'm not opposed to being a little bit more stars and scrubs when you have a little bit shallower league where there is better replacement level. But we thought, let's just try to get some more bargain guys later on in the offense, so throw money into catching, and that didn't happen. I thought that the catching price, and you can comment, Justin. I thought the catching prices were very high last night.
Yeah, the catching prices were fairly expensive. I was a little surprised because typically we see a lot of guys kind of say, "Hey, I'm not even going to worry about the catching pool. I'm just going to play in the bottom." But there were only, I think, two teams that walked away with dollar catchers, and I actually like the dollar, or maybe it's even, oh yeah, it was two teams. Like I even like one of the dollar catchers that Gray Albright ended up with Hunter Goodman. But people definitely prioritize catching, as you kind of should in a two catcher league, even a 12 teamer. Like the bottom barrel of a 12 team two catcher league like is not very good. I don't want to be sitting there in my season in a 12 team league with like Jonah Heim or Bo Naylor as my catching options. So I think that the draft was pretty spot on in terms of going after guys at the catching position, because I think there are massive drop offs at the position.
So, like Jeff Zimmerman, he is known also to go for very high catching values because he plays, he takes the value of the replacement level and catchers bad, and that bumps up catchers, and he plays it to the fullest, and he just goes for top catchers, period. If you recall, he was in on every single catcher, very, very long, and that's his usual plan. You can look at his past drafts, he does the same thing. How much for you do you look at what other people's do, have done in the past in terms of making your strategy? For me, I'll tell you that it's very important to me to look at other people and see how they've done. So, I know that Brian Feldman, he's going to go for top players very high. And since I don't usually do that, I don't really have to worry about Brian Feldman because he's not really involved. When I'm playing with a guy like Frank Stamfel, not in this draft, but he's going for the same guys. You go play the middle. That also feeds into us. So, it's tough. I know Matt Martingale, who we battled with, I know he does use a lot of ATC projections. So he might be battling with us as opposed to Ray Murphy. He's doing, baseball HQ stuff, so nothing to do with us. So we're not going to be involved in a lot of the same players. How much do you look at other people when you're making your plan?
I mean, I'll look a little bit, especially if I know them fairly well, and I did know a good amount of the room, especially knowing that, hey, when prices are high, like if I throw out a certain player, like I know that this team is gonna go spend some money. So like there were definitely moments in which like I saw like you or Jeff had more money than me, and I'm like, okay, I need to throw out someone here that I
Right.
know Ariel might go for or Jeff might go for and soak up some of that money. But for the most part, like I said, like I'm not necessarily tied to a particular strategy or a particular player kind of set in an auction. For me, it's really just about like, hey, I'm gonna take the best available value and then I'm gonna kind of go for there. So I don't worry too much about the people at the table unless I know that someone does extreme things. So like for instance, Kev Masarajan, the rotor surgeon. I've done a couple auctions with him in Tout Wars, like, and I know he's gonna spend big. Like I know he's gonna spend big, and so like I know like okay, if I throw out a big name here, he's gonna go get him, and take a lot of money off of the board or something like that. Or if I'm in an auction like I was yesterday with you and Jeff, like I know like hey, the middle may be a lot more dangerous than it normally would in one of these auctions because both all three of us tend to like to play the middle kind of games of the auction. So But for the most part, I kind of just do my thing and let the auction come to me.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why also when I was planning it with Ruvain, I'm like, you know, we've got a lot of guys who do play the middle. Maybe we should do a little stars and scrubs so that we just avoid Jeff, avoid Justin a little bit more because we don't be fighting over the place. And that actually worked a little bit for us because we didn't. I don't think you and I really fought all that much for players, to be honest.
No, I think there were a few,
Here and there.
and there were definitely ones where, not necessarily that we fought over. I mean, we definitely fought over Tanner Bybee.
Yes.
I was really really bummed about that one. And then I think JT Realmuto was another one where I was like, man, maybe I should have gotten the extra buck
Right.
on Realmuto as my second catcher. And then I think Nick Castellanos was another one that you guys got me. But for me, it was more of the guys you got at the end of the draft that I was really hoping would slide into the reserves. That annoyed me. Like you guys grabbing Cody Bradford in the first round of the reserves really really hurt me. Jake McCarthy, getting him for $2 at the end of the auction when I was already full, was a guy that I was pretty upset about.
Yeah, we played that money right at the very end. And we did some things right, some things wrong. But before we go to some specific players, so Ruvain, what do you think in terms of the categorical or by position? What do you think was really you need to pay a premium in this particular auction, or what you think was discounted somewhat?
I think, well, we at the end of the draft, I think we ended up being low on power. So I think power is at a premium, and I think we didn't spend them when we spent our money. We didn't spend it the right way. Stolen bases, as Justin you mentioned, we got Jake McCarthy at the end who who can get stolen bases. You got him for $2. Stolen bases, I wasn't really too concerned about it, but I think power is a problem. Saves, when we're looking at closers out there, we had no idea at the end who to go for. We're like, should we go for this guy? Should we go for that guy? Does that guy have a job? What are we gonna do with him? What are we doing in Boston? What are they doing? Who's gonna be the closer in? We wanted to go maybe after Tanner Scott, but we weren't sure he's gonna be the closer. You have Tyler Yates, you have Kirby Yates there. There are still a lot of this drafting this early in the season. Trying to draft saves is kind of hard, and I think that was the top closers that had jobs were at a very high premium, and I think we ended up getting a top closer. We weren't planning on getting. We got Emmanuel Clase, and I think we spent the most on any closer, and I think we actually set the market. No one wanted to pay more than 20 after that. But I think saves and I think power were the two premiums in the draft.
Yeah, I think that I don't know if it was a good idea to go for the 20. We're like, let's just get the lockdown closer now. 20, what the hell? We thought maybe we'd even go to 21. In retrospect, I think there were some other closers available, 17, 16. Maybe we could have saved a couple bucks. But we got the guy, and everyone needs a guy. I thought steals were actually cheap. I mean, we got Jake McCarthy at the end for cheap. I know Bryson Stott at the end was cheap. I feel like we didn't have to push somewhere in the middle for steals because there was speed available. Again, it's also a 12-team league, so there are more stuff. Catchers were really expensive. I was surprised at that. Anything to pick out also, Justin?
I really felt like pitching in the middle rounds got a little bit expensive.
And then it got cheap.
Yeah, and then it got really cheap. And so, like, I think for me, like, I have like a $9 Kevin Gausman and a $9 Robbie Ray and $8 Zach Gallen, $6 Rodon. Like, I kind of wish I had just put that money into my offense on a few of those guys, especially like Gausman, and then kind of really just waited and kind of got a couple $1 or $2 guys at the end. Like I said, you guys got Cody Bradford, in the reserves. Chris Bassett was in the reserves. Like, how much different is Chris Bassett than maybe like a Kevin Gausman type? Obviously a little bit different, but not that much. So I feel like maybe the pitching early wasn't as expensive as it probably should have been, and I should have maybe pushed up, and instead of getting a $9 Kevin Gausman and a $9 Robbie Ray, gone and gotten a $17 pitcher as opposed to, and then a $1 pitcher guy. So I think that was maybe my big mistake of the draft, is playing too much of the middle at that point, especially with the pitching.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because your top price for a pitcher is Spencer Schwellenbach. You got him for 19. Was that a plan going in, or did you not want to spend a lot on pitchers, or you want to just play in the teens in pitchers?
For me, it was just a matter of like where I had my prices at, and I'm super high on Spencer Schwellenbach. I felt like, and I knew that he, guys like Schwellenbach and Bailey Ober, are two guys that I know for sure, like I'm way higher on than the rest of the market. Zach Allen is another one. Brandon Fott is another one. Like I knew I was going to end up with guys like that. And I felt like, especially in a league like this, you can be so devastated if you play stars and scrubs and you lose one of those stars. And this happened to me last year in this league, right? I ended up finishing in third, but I lost Acuna, who I spent, I think, $60 on last year.
I don't think it was quite that much, but I was there. We were
Yeah,
there.
it was a lot. It was like 50 something, maybe
5,
60.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a huge, it was at least a fifth of my auction budget, right? That I lost at the draft table. And so, and that can be really, really devastating. And so, especially with this draft being so early, kind of in draft season at the beginning of March, I don't like to go after a $30 pitcher because I feel like you're setting yourself up to be devastated with the rest of your rotation, especially if you're budgeting $90 to $100 on pitching. If you lose a $30 guy, it can be really, really hard to kind of come back for that. And so I definitely had an idea that I was likely going to be spreading wealth. That being said, I was still in on, Skeens and Scooble until they got to the prices that they got to. I just wasn't willing to kind of go the extra buck on them.
Yeah, so we got Garrett Crochet at the top, and I going into this draft season, I didn't think I would get any shares of him, but I don't know, he was cheap. We got him for $26, which was at least $10 less than Skeens. I'm like, I'll take Garrett Crochet for $10 less than that, and that was good because prices were pushed up at in the middle. I'm glad we didn't spend all that much more and got the top guy. We ended up getting 4 decent pitchers. We got Crochet, we got Bybee, we got Glass now at a relatively cheap price. We also got Logan Webb. I figure Logan Webb, maybe we pushed it a little bit more. Maybe we could have not bought him, put some money in the offense, and get a little bit cheap pitcher at the end. But, it's a mixed league, and I don't mind going starts. It's a mixed shallow league. I don't mind going stars and scrubs, getting just 4 really good pitchers. And then, like you said, we were able to get the Bradford. We were able to get we got a Nestor Cortez cheap at the end. So, you can stream more also if you have 2 or 3 $1, $2 pitchers at the end. And that's what we did because we just locked up the top talent. So, I don't know if it's a mistake to overget that, but not too bad, especially given the depth of the league.
And we only went with 2 closers. Usually we leave the draft with more than 2. That's not our thing. Usually our thing is we get 3, sometimes even 4 closers. We only went with 2. And I see Justin, you also only had 2. You go in thinking you only need 2 for
Got
this.
5 last year, if I remember, Justin.
Well, and see, that was the thing. So I usually am really, really active with trades. And last year, like the bottom end of the closers were really, really cheap. And so like I got 2 locked in guys, and then I just, one of my strategies in drafts and auctions is usually in the reserves is I just load up on guys who might be closers because there's a limited amount of closers in a league and everybody needs them. And so I figured, you know what, I'm going to take shots, and a lot of my shots panned out really, really well. And then I'll trade them, right? Like I'll trade them for any whatever deficits I had. And where my deficit was in starting pitching because I had so many closers. No one would trade with me last year. Like I was trying to give out these amazing deals to people, and I'm stuck with 5 closers, and I don't want to drop them onto the wire and let people who are close to me in the standings. And it honestly was part of the reason why I lost the league last year was because I just could not unload
Plus
these
Acuna.
closers. Yeah, plus Acuna, and then Spencer Arrighetti had just a massive blow up at the end that really cost me in whip. But to be quite honest, and I've talked about this on podcasts and in articles, I kind of forgot about the league. I didn't make a roster move until like middle of May because it's on RT Sports, and I don't play any leagues on RT Sports. So it was my first year doing it, and so I had Kyle Bradish in my lineup for the first month and a half of the season, and other injured guys, and I think I win this league pretty handily if I'm paying attention in April and May. And so I won't make that mistake again, but I've been very, very open and honest about like, hey, like I may be, a quote unquote professional at this, but I still make mistakes too. And that was a massive one.
So what's your feeling quickly on overall auction temperature? So the AL LABR auction temperature was very hot. very high prices at the top. I commentated with Paul Sporer, actually, the NL LABR. By the way, that was a great commentating. For those of you who do go to the Baseball HQ online seminar, that was a great evening. With it was me, Paul Sporer, and Tristan Cockcroft. We just did a bang up job, I think. A lot of people told us they loved it. But cold auction. NL LABR, people were just not paying for anything at the top. Like Ellie De La Cruz went for like 38, and an Amano, like what? He should be going for a little bit more than that. And Jackson Churio went for just 31. What? Things like that where you can really get a guy at the top, and nobody wanted to. But what do you think the auction temperature was here? I actually think it was room temperature. I think it was neither cold nor hot. I think it's just a group of people who, pretty much the same exact group as last year, knows each other. People didn't go super hot, didn't go super cold, no super bargains anywhere. I thought it was a very tough room.
I thought it was a pretty tough room too. I felt like the prices early were a little bit high, but not outrageously so. But I definitely felt like there were guys who were probably going $2 or $3 more than at least I had them.
Two or three is actually just room temperature. I mean,
it's totally fine. Like but for me, it was just like every single guy. Like I was even surprised I ended up with Lindor because like I just felt like, oh man, I'm really gonna be stuck with a bunch of like $15 players. Like my whole team is just
so like when it's 2-3 over only, you got to get one because that's you go plus one on a guy. Okay, so we got like Julio Rodriguez for like 31, which is not crazy. But if you don't get that one, then you're gonna be strapped later. But you can't buy multiple players because the temperature is not cold. And you do have to buy somebody. I mean, I remember Tout Wars head-to-head a couple years ago. Everybody was going not just 3 or 4. They were going $7, $8 over my values. And I just bought nobody for the first, I'm not kidding you, 40 players. And everyone's like, are you going to play Ariel? I'm like, no, don't worry. I got it. And I scooped up the entire middle. And I won. I won the league because I just bought every single good player at all over the place where everyone just ran out of money quickly.
Well, that's the thing. We were playing the middle, and so were a bunch of other players in this draft. It seems like everyone was playing the middle. It seems like in the middle of the draft, every guy we wanted, we lost by $1. We literally lost these guys by $1, and we kept going. Oh, should we have spent the extra dollar here? Should we have spent the extra dollar there? And we're thinking, there's enough players. We'll wait for the next one, and the same thing happened again and again and again. And we thought that we thought there were going to be some hot spots somewhere that the room's going to start heating up, but it just wasn't, and it was we haven't really been involved. Yeah, we haven't been involved in many drafts like this before, where you have this, it's just so lukewarm that you don't know what to do, and you sort of get stuck in between, and then you have to make a decision what you have to do.
What was your best plays, you think, Justin, and what was something that maybe gone wrong for you?
Let's see. My best plays, probably. I mean, I really loved my Seiya Suzuki, $12. I loved getting Royce Lewis at $10. Paul Goldschmidt at $7. I even liked the Adley Rutschman at 19 when you consider like Wills Contreras also went for 19. William Contreras went for 25. Some of my kind of bad ones, I think. Like I said, the pitching, Kevin Gausman for $9. Like, I feel like he's probably an $11 player, so it's fine in terms of, hey, like I extracted $2 from the auction, but there were so many pitchers that went after him that people got $4, $5, $6 worth of value. Like I have Zach Eflin rated higher than Kevin Gausman, and he went for $5. But at that point, like I was virtually full on starting pitching by the time Zach Eflin came out. So I feel like I probably should have read kind of how much added value in the pitching department there was, and I could have like passed on a guy like Kevin Gausman. My other one, I think, Felix Bautista. I was like really wanting to just get two kind of locked in guys, but I am worried about him coming off of Tommy John and how hard he throws and his mechanics, and I do worry that he's looked good so far, and I'm hoping. But I mean, we saw this with, I did a live stream for the auction, which some people in the auction watched while doing it because they were commenting along. And somebody asked me about Who was it? Might have been Shane McClanahan. Oh no, it was Sandy Alcantara. They asked me about Sandy Alcantara, and because Alcantara went for $12, and like that inherently is actually a pretty decent price on a guy like that. But what we saw last year and what we've seen in the past on guys coming back from Tommy John is kind of struggles with command and control. And we saw it last year with Robbie Ray, where like, hey, one start he looks like the best pitcher in baseball, and then the next start he cannot find the zone at all. And so like I kind of stayed away from some of those guys, and I can't remember the point I was trying to make, but with Felix Bautista, like, hey, he looks good now, but will he look good in May? Will he look good in June? Will an injury pop back up? I just feel like I could have put that $12 towards like, I don't know, a $7 Ryan Presley, and then added $5 more to my offense.
Yeah, I know Alcantara, by the way, about him. I know that, he looks great and people love him in the industry, but, he does really count on the control because he's not a strikeout pitcher.
Yeah.
So if something goes wrong, there's not much value left to lock up.
And he's
So,
pitching in a very tough division too.
and for the Marlins, the win's
Yeah.
going to be tough.
Even
so.
more importantly, yeah, he's Alcantara is a command and control guy, and command and control is the things that is most spotty with guys coming back from Tommy John.
Yeah.
And then he's on a Marlins team, which may actually be worse than last year's White Sox team. Like I don't know that they're going to lose
that's
that
hard.
many.
That's hard to beat, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
I
like
don't
the
know that
worst
they're going to
ever.
lose that. Yeah, I don't know that they're going to lose
Yeah.
that many games, but I just mean from a straight talent perspective, they're terrible. Like they're really, really bad. And so like there are not going to be many wins in that division. And so you now have a guy who, hey, he relies on command and control and volume. And we don't know how much volume the Marlins are going to give him. We don't know how his command and control is going to be. And he's on one of the worst teams in baseball for wins. I just, for me, like I'm completely out on
Yeah.
Alcantara. And my projections show that. Like I do not have him as a
Right.
$12 pitcher.
All right, so what went right for us is I thought we handled the catchers amazingly. We saw that it was very expensive. It was our original plan to pay it, but we said no. We need to get at least a $3 bargain on catchers. And we ended up with Real Muto for $7, Francisco Alvarez for $7. We spent a total of $14 for our catchers, and those are two number one catchers, so I thought we did that very well. Yandy Diaz was probably the best bargain, $3, and he's a guy who, especially since they're going to be in George Steinbrenner Stadium, I think he can get some of his power back. So that's a very good buy at 3. We got Jake McCarthy for 2 later. That's nice. I like the Brent Rooker buy for 18. Now, you can quibble that, yes, he's going to be not as good as last year, regression, but he is moving to a different ballpark, and he was a $30-something player last year, so regress to what? If you take $10 off, I'm still getting value for him, and he provides power in an area where we need power. I think mistakes that we made, I think we spent too much in the middle low where we didn't get enough of a bargain on them. So, the way I work it in terms of bargains, at the very top, you pay the market premium. If, you overpay by 1 or 2, no problem. So we got, our top 2 hitters at a overpay of $2, or top pitcher at overpay of 2, no problem. That follows the market. And then we got some bargains along the way. You go +1, get a dollar discount. You go 1 under, $1 discount here too. But at some point, you need to get $3 discounts, then $3 discounts, and then at the bottom, you hope, if it's available, which it wasn't in this draft because it was lukewarm. You hope to get $5 discounts. There was no $5 discounts available late, so we guessed wrong on that. And the middle, we said, you know what, we better just take the $1 or $2 discount. So not that any one player was bad. We got Matt Chapman, we got Castellanos, we got Luis Garcia Jr., all of them for like $1 or $2 discount, but we didn't lock up enough discount with a 3. Just getting $3 discount from 3 players in the middle is not enough for what I like to be at. We probably should have said, you know what, forget Luis Garcia Jr. We should have taken Swanson at a bigger discount, and then, get another discount for, Alec Bohm was pretty cheap compared to our numbers. Could have gotten him for cheaper instead of Chapman. So maybe we just could have distributed differently. It's hard to know what's going to be, and this was just a very tight auction. So, the plus side though is because we did that, we are left with a bunch of $1, $2 players in a shallow mixed league. That's not so bad. So if somebody is bad, like our shortstop is Willie Castro. If he stinks, so streaming some other guy. Who cares? If George Springer goes bust, you spend $3, get somebody else. Like, we can stream in guys. We've got three $1 pitchers. If Tanner Houck or Nestor Cortez isn't good, or even if they are, you can stream, no problem. So there's pluses and minuses. Overall, I think we did a decent job. This was not an A+ auction. I'm gonna grade our auction as a B. This is not my favorite one, but definitely workable, I think. What's your grade for yours, Justin?
I would say probably like a B minus. I know other projection systems don't like mine as much as I do, obviously. But I felt like I definitely had areas in which I could improve. Like I probably wish I'd gone for an ace somewhere along the lines, or a more established ace other than Schwellenbach and Ober. And I feel like I probably maybe need a little bit more speed on this team. I need Zach Neto to come back pretty quickly. And I'm really reliant on just a few guys for my stolen bases. But like I said, stolen bases can kind of be found off of the wire in a 12-team league. So I'm hoping that is
or trade him to us. We need a little bit of power. We can trade a little speed. So maybe we do that.
Even you can take Logan Webb off our hands, because that's one guy that RL you didn't really like getting. I mean, he's a 200-inning guy. That's why I really wanted to get him, because our first two picks for pitcher was Garrett Crochet and Tyler Glasnow. How many innings combined are those two guys going to get this year? I don't know. I wanted that 200-inning guy who's consistent.
You're convincing me to keep him then. So.
I'm convincing you to keep him. But if we need the power, Justin, you can go watch him play, and you can root for him at the same time. He'll be on your team.
Yeah,
I'm
true.
not as big of a Webb guy as maybe other people are, but I actually think Webb kind of fits your guys' team perfectly.
I think yeah. And we took Tyler Fitzgerald. I know you don't like him, but we took him anyways.
Yeah, he's just bad at baseball. So you got him in the reserve.
Wonderful.
So you don't have to worry about relying upon him. And I think he is gonna play at least early on. But
he could be our first drop. I mean, we have to drop somebody at some point, right? So.
He probably will be, because he's just kind of a terrible baseball player.
Want to trade for him? I'm just kidding.
I do not. I made a joke because I drafted a league for somebody else who in one of the Earth leagues, and someone was like, "Oh, why don't you take Tyler Fitzgerald?" And I'm like, I wouldn't draft that on my worst enemy's team, much less a friend's.
All right, quickly before we wrap up, this was online, and last year and other years we've done it live. I personally way prefer the live ones, and I'm better in person where I can see the room and modulate my voice and control. I found it hard. We got to press the button, and you want to press +1 or you want to press a number, and people are already bidding, and you're not locked out of a buzzer in person. I like it. What do you think? You prefer online or live?
I mean, live is really the only way to do it. I do a lot of online auctions, mostly because I can't make it out to Vegas every year for the NFBC auctions, and obviously this year for LABR, we needed to be online because there was another event going on in Tampa when we typically do this, and it was I guess it's just impossible to find.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah, there was some sort of big NASCAR race or something like that going on that weekend, and so all the hotels and conference centers were booked.
Okay.
So there, I believe there was originally talk about maybe moving it back to Phoenix,
Arizona?
but they didn't know. Yeah, they didn't know if logistically that was going to work. But online auctions, they're fine for what they are, but really it changes a lot of the dynamics of how an auction are supposed to work, and it moves it along. Now this one didn't move along at a massively fast pace because they gave us a minute to do nominations, which kind of made it a little bit more auction-like, where people actually have time in between players. But I just feel like you don't get a read of the room in the same way.
No,
you don't get to see with kind of the grimace on someone's face when they're unable to go for that extra dollar on a player. I feel like it really kind of disrupts the flow, and that online auctions are similar to online poker, which is hey, you take the human element out of it when the human element is supposed to be in it. And so yeah, I'm really looking forward to, being in New York and getting to do those auctions because we're in person. Because I just feel like that's more a pure version of the game.
All right, Ruvain, time for a quick injury update.
All right, so you got a couple people. First of all, Luis Hill was diagnosed with a high-grade right lat strain, according to manager Aaron Boone. He will not throw for at least 6 weeks. Now, a caveat for this, Clark Schmidt had a similar strain last year. He was out from May 26th until September 7th. So it's like a 3.5 month period. So Luis Hill may be out for an extended period of time. We'll stick with the Yankees. Giancarlo Stanton, I don't think you really want him at this point. He's dealing with tennis elbow in both of his elbows. He's had PRP injections already for both elbows. We don't know what's going on. We don't know. There's no timeline. We don't know how things are going to work with that. Willie Abreu has not been cleared for baseball activities. He has an illness and, quote, cannot do baseball activities yet, and he's lost significant weight with this illness. We don't know exactly what it is. They're not being 100% clear, but we don't know if he's going to be ready for opening day. Sean Murphy, he's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks with a fractured rib. Drake Baldwin is going to be the main catcher now in Atlanta, but the main thing to know about this is that when Sean Murphy catches the Braves pitchers, their ERA is like half a point or 0.75 lower than when he doesn't catch. So
There goes Schwellenbach.
So you have to be very aware of who they're thrown to, because Sean Murphy is actually good at framing and everything like that. And Brian Bello, opening day is in question. He has a shoulder strain, shoulder soreness. He's still hoping to be ready for opening day, but because he's a number 4 or 5 starter, they may not need him for later, so he may even start the season on the IL.
All right, once again, thank you so much, Justin, for coming on the show. TGFBI started now. It's draft season. This is so big, and thanks for taking the time to stop by. Why don't you just tell everybody where we can find all your work?
Yeah, you can find all my work. I write at Fantasy Pros and Fangraphs on the Sleeper and the Bus podcast and the Friends of Fantasy Benefits podcast. And yeah, that is pretty much it now these days.
Ruvain?
You can follow me on Twitter X at MLB Injury Guru, where I tweet out injury updates as they come, and they're coming fast and furious now during spring training. You can also catch my weekly article at Rotoballer discussing all the injuries and the next man up.
And I'm Ariel Cohen. I am over at Fangraphs, over at Rotoballer, ATCNY on Twitter, and of course ATC Projections up so many places. Check it out. Updated basically twice a week now for the next couple of weeks to get you through your draft season. All right, once again, thank you so much to Justin Mason of Fangraphs and TGFBI. From all of us here at Beat the Shift, well, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Beat the Shift podcast presented by Fangraphs. Follow us on Twitter at beat_shift_pod.